Good morning, everyone! Or if you're in Brazil, bom dia! Estamos muito entusiasmados em falar sobre Ainda Estou Aqui.
Right. What she said. We finally, finalmente saw I'm Still Here, the movie that made quite a delightful surprise in the Best Picture category on Oscar nomination morning.
I'm Still Here. Nominees.
I'm Still Here!
Guys, paperwork. Let's
Oh,
go.
oh.
Come on.
Yes!
So happy to be able to see this in a theater near us. So this video was going to be a review, but this movie has already been released wide. So this is going to be more of a spoiler review / discussion about the film. So if you haven't seen this movie, you've been warned.
And here's the challenging part. I'm going to be real with you. I'm very aware that there's likely going to be a lot of Brazilian people watching this video. And I know if I didn't like this film, I'm going to have a lot of angry Brazilians after me. But unfortunately, I do have to be honest with what I think about this film. But luckily, I don't have to worry because I'm delighted to say that I really like this film.
I went in completely blind. The only thing I knew was that one photo of Fernanda Torres, and I knew that it was a Brazilian movie. I just didn't know what it was about. I didn't know how big in scale it was going to be. I was completely blown away.
Yeah, well, let's take it from the beginning, because in the film's opening scene, you and I were like looking at each other because the cinematography in this film is beautiful.
Gorgeous. I was shocked in the first few minutes of watching it, just how absolutely gorgeous it looked. I was completely in awe. I guess I was expecting it to be a smaller indie film because, again, I knew nothing, excuse my ignorance, but you know, the filming, the location, the production, the costumes, everything was entrancing me.
Yeah, for me as well. And for most American films, you know, when they tell stories that kind of take place in South American countries, we're really used to this kind of look where they just slap on a sepia filter and call it a day. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, it's like they're intentionally trying to make it look like grungy or dirty or scary. Right. I don't want to pick on Emilia Perez, but that's an example of what we're talking about.
That is an example. And that was nominated for Best Cinematography. But this should have been nominated for Best Cinematography, in my opinion.
Why wasn't this?
I don't know. I'm Still Here is shot by Adrian Tejito. And I love how he infuses this beautiful Super 8 footage throughout the film, creating its own unique look, while also lending itself to the time period and the home video documentation of this family. But going back to that opening beach scene, I don't know if about you, but I was getting this kind of feeling that something ominous was in the air. Like there's a lot of action, there's a lot of distraction going on. It reminded me of the scene in Jaws, actually. I was worried that something bad was about to happen.
Same. How that was strange how that was happening. I kept thinking something was going to happen to the kids. There wasn't anything necessarily like scary in the scene, but something felt like
felt off. Yeah, I think it really just sets the stage for people going about their lives while living with these menacing political forces looming in the background. Really,
the first 30 minutes of this film is more of a setup, I guess. Yeah. Everything that we're learning about the political climate in Brazil is playing sort of in the background on the TV or the radio, casual conversations with family and friends. But in the forefront, we're spending a lot of time with this family in their everyday lives, and we're falling in love with them, their home and their joy for life, until everything kind of unravels.
Yeah. And one of my favorite scenes was when the daughter went to college to England. She sends her family a film reel. Do you remember that scene where it has audio that came with it, and she called it like a sensory experience. And we see her Super 8 film from her narration about her travels. I can't quite put my finger on why I love that scene so much, but I think it just showed this love that the family has for each other. And it just was charming.
Yeah, it was. It was very charming. It was like an innocent moment before a lot of not very innocent things happen. I also loved the running around, the everyday like socializing, dancing in their living room. To me, the house was a character in itself.
It was, absolutely.
It was a beautiful home. And there's this scene later in the film when they have to leave that house. They have to leave their home. Mm-hmm. And one of the kids is shooting the house on film as they drive away until the house can't be seen anymore. That was a scene that I cried at because I felt like they were leaving a family member behind. It just felt like so heartbreaking. I feel like that house is like what kept them as a tight-knit family. It's what kept them close and together. And it was also like leaving their dad behind because that was the last place that they were all together as a family, in that house.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the production design, as you alluded to, is something that could probably go unnoticed in this film, but I really think it's incredible. It's really detailed. I remember Roma, like watching that movie in a theater. It was a really immersive experience for me. When people talk about immersive, you often think of something like Avatar or something like that. But I also consider a subtle way that a film can transport you to a certain time period and place where it feels like you're truly experiencing it in that time and in that place. Like I think of Roma and how Alfonso Cuarón recreated the streets of Mexico City in the early 70s, where I could hear all the vendors and the textured sounds. And Walter Salles transported me to the Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in the early 70s. And though I can't speak to its authenticity, I truly felt transported where I felt like I could feel the summer heat and I could smell the old car leather. It just felt so textured.
Agreed. Eventually, this atmospheric portrait of a family starts to unravel slowly. There's a scene that talks about a Swiss ambassador being kidnapped, and the country is becoming increasingly unstable politically.
Yeah.
Also, the daughter gets like searched and frisked when she's out with her friends, and things come to a screeching halt in one very pivotal scene when the military regime shows up at the Paiva home and takes Rubens for questioning.
Right. And I really like the direction in that scene because obviously it's very intimidating when men show up at your house with guns, but the director doesn't use cheap droning music in this scene to make you feel fearful. He just allows the silence to speak volume. You know, up until this point, this movie has been a celebration of life, and then when this scene comes, it really brings everything to a halt, and it becomes a very real, scary situation where you feel like you have no other option than just to comply.
Also, this important is pivotal because this is likely the last time that they're going to see him.
See, I didn't know that. Actually. I knew something bad was happening. I thought maybe he'd be in prison for a long time. So as you can tell, I came in also like you. I didn't know anything about the plot of this film, but thinking about what his fate ends up being in the film, replaying that scene in my head is really heartbreaking because it seems in that scene that he clearly knows that this is likely the last time he'll see his family, the last time he'll kiss his wife, and that last look he gives before getting into the car is burned in my memory, and the expression that he gives like haunts me.
Yeah, and he's putting up a front, in a sense, to protect his wife and kids in the same way that Eunice is a rock for her children in return. Even in that scene, while the children are like kind of unknowingly walking around the house, coming in and out, she makes sure to keep everything calm and the danger, I guess, hidden from her children. And all that is a testament to Fernanda's incredible acting because she adds so many subtle layers to her performance to show this, thing that she's doing.
Absolutely. I mean, Fernanda Torres is so much more nuanced than I was expecting. But like you said, gives such an incredibly internalized, detailed performance as the matriarch trying to really hold this family together. That's her role in this film.
One of the scenes that really shows this talent that Fernanda has in this movie is when she takes her children for ice cream the second time. Despite having found out that her husband was murdered, she continues to put up this front for her children. But what Fernanda does so beautifully is that we notice as an audience member, and some of her children notice too, there's this complexity behind her eyes, a sort of dissonance in her emotion.
Not only is this film about an incredibly strong mother who suffered the unimaginable, trying to endure the brunt of this pain of losing a loved one and, to help spare her children from as much of that pain as possible, this film has really become so much more about the search of justice and seeking closure. And this film really does show the lifelong trauma that this lack of closure can instill on a family, I think.
Yeah, and I can only imagine how important this film is for the country of Brazil as a whole because of this specific chapter in their history. I imagine that there's a lot of families out there that resemble the family that we see in this film who still hold an incredible amount of distress and trauma that came at the hands of this dictatorship. I was just thinking about how Eunice seeking closure for the truth mirrors the country's need for closure as a whole. From my understanding, I don't think anyone has ever been convicted for these crimes. So I can see how important this film is for Brazilians. And to be able to have this dark chapter of their history to be seen and acknowledged on a worldwide scale, I'm sure is amazing.
And I think that's why the last chapter of this film really, really hits hard. A scene where I had to fight myself from crying was simply Eunice going through that scrapbook and finally placing that death certificate at the end. Chills. Again, the director, great direction, using silence to speak for itself to excellent effect. And then we reach the end, decades later. We have the family taking a picture in the backyard, still a family, survivors with a zest of life still despite it all. And it was really moving.
I think that's a great way to sum up the movie. The director does an incredible job at speaking volumes with silence.
Absolutely. So I do want to say one of my other favorite scenes is Eunice, now old, played by Fernanda Torres' mother, Fernandez Montenegro, also nominated for Central Station. Montenegro didn't utter a single word in the scene, but had such incredible presence. Some of the best facial acting work I've seen in a film. And I know a lot of this movie is dependent on Fernanda's performance, but I do think Selton Mello, I think he turns in a performance I would have liked to have seen in Best Supporting Actor conversation. I think he deserves to be in that conversation. I think his likability and his presence throughout the film is really the key to the story. And though he's off screen for most of the film, for more than half of the film, his presence is felt throughout.
Agreed. Really great performances all around. I was so shocked to find out that it was her real 95-year-old mother. That, by the way, has also been nominated for an Oscar. You mentioned that, but I don't know. I didn't know this information. How special is that? I was shocked. For the entirety of the film, I literally thought it was Fernanda in like amazing old age makeup.
It looks
I was like, it looks just like her. It must be her in old age makeup. I was so sure, but it was her mom all along. I just find that to be so sweet. Qué lindo. I honestly really, really enjoyed this film more than many of the American films that were nominated for Best Picture this year.
Yeah, I agree.
So do you think that it can win Oscars?
Well, I think Best Picture is the biggest uphill battle. Fernanda Torres is obviously surging right now. She's getting more and more interviews every day, so she is surging. But again, she's up against Demi Moore, whose narrative has really taken shape in the States. And then Mikey Madison's chances have grown a lot because she's going to be in a Best Picture film likely, and also she won the BAFTA. However, I really would love to see, and I think we can see, I'm Still Here win international film, beating out Amelia Perez. So before I'm Still Here got into picture, Amelia Perez was really going to take that prize with no contest. But with I'm Still Here getting into picture, the priority for members to watch it has shot up. And now it has actually come up to the plate to challenge Amelia Perez. And I think that's so exciting. And God bless you for challenging it, because someone should challenge that film. And with all the incoming controversy surrounding Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here has really become that clear alternative. So you're probably going to get these protest votes, and they may convince a lot of other members to switch over now having seen I'm Still Here. So I know for me, I will be overjoyed with excitement to see this happen, because it would be an excellent winner in this category, a truly good winner. And I will say out to the Brazilians out there, keep the noise going. Keep it going. Will the Academy hear the enthusiasm? I don't know. I don't know if they will, but I do know that your enthusiasm leads Jimmy Kimmel and the Good Morning America to pick up the phone and book Fernanda Torres. So ultimately, it does raise the film's visibility, and your enthusiasm is so important for the Academy to hopefully include more international films and Best Picture in the future. So keep it up.
I mean, I would love to see Torres win Best Actress because many people may not be aware, but no Latina has ever won the Best Actress category.
I don't think a lot of people know that.
Ever.
Yeah.
And that's obviously very close to my heart. Also, her mom was the first Latina to be nominated for Best Actress, and 5 Latina nominations later, her daughter would be the first Latina to win. I mean, what a story. Again, que lindo. So I can definitely see why people are so passionate about this movie and Fernanda Torres.
That pretty much covers it. Well, there you have it, everyone. That was our discussion of I'm Still Here. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more Oscar-related videos, hit the subscribe button down below. Follow us on social media, links in the bio. Also, comment below if there's any films out there that you want us to review. Thanks always for watching.
Y eche próxima, nos vemos no Oscar. I think.
What she said.